One direction, everybody is talking about the new Mercedes-Benz Atros 5. Others are waiting for rigid trucks. Some players only care about console support. And lately, ETS2 players have been heavily focused on the bus DLC discussions. And honestly, all of those are exciting projects. They deserve attention. But while everyone is looking at those updates, I think something much bigger is quietly developing in the background. Something SCS has been slowly preparing for years. Road trip. And the strange thing is, not many players are seriously talking about it yet. Personally, I think this project might become one of the most important updates SCS has ever made. Now, before we even talk about release dates, let's slow down and actually look at the signs SCS has been leaving behind recently. Because once you connect everything together, it starts becoming very obvious that this project is progressing fast, much faster than people realize. The first thing that caught my attention recently was the new Ford Bronco. At first glance, it just looks like another vehicle showcase. Most players saw a cool SUV and moved on. But I think the real story is hidden inside the details. Look carefully at the interior. The cabin lighting looks completely different compared to older vehicles. The materials react naturally now. The leather has depth. The shadows move more realistically. The dashboard feels softer and more alive. And this is because SCS introduced a new dynamic interior lighting system. Now, this might sound small to casual players, but from a development perspective, this is actually huge. Interior lighting is one of the final polish systems developers usually work on. You normally don't spend time improving cabin realism unless the core vehicle systems are already functioning properly. That's why this update immediately caught my attention, and then SCS confirmed something even more important. This lighting system is not only for one vehicle, it is being prepared for the road trip vehicle lineup. The Ford Pack, the Dodge vehicles, the Ram vehicles, all of them are expected to use this new technology. Now pause for a second and think about that carefully. SCS is not building one random SUV. They are building an entire driving experience around personal vehicles, and honestly, I think many players still underestimate how massive this could become, because road trip is not just about driving cars inside a truck simulator. I think SCS wants to slowly evolve ETS2 and ATS into something much bigger than trucking alone. The recent physics updates made this even more obvious to me, and honestly, this is where things started becoming really interesting. SCS recently talked about new wheel behavior and suspension improvements. Now the wheels properly camber during off-road driving. The steering system now includes caster movement. Vehicle behavior reacts more naturally on uneven terrain. These sound like tiny details, but trust me, these details matter massively when developing realistic car handling. Heavy trucks can hide many imperfections, cars cannot. The moment players start driving lighter vehicles at higher speeds, physics suddenly become extremely important. Weight transfer matters, suspension movement matters, steering feel matters, body roll matters, and suddenly all these recent SCS updates start making perfect sense. Even the road collision improvements feel connected to road trip. SCS mentioned they adjusted the collision geometry across almost all roads. Now, most people skipped over that sentence quickly, but I stopped there immediately because that kind of work takes time, a lot of time, and they specifically mentioned improvements during highway turning lanes and uneven road transitions at higher speeds. Again, that sounds exactly like preparation work for smaller, lighter, faster vehicles, not just trucks. To me, it honestly feels like SCS has been rebuilding parts of the engine quietly behind the scenes for years now, and road trip might finally be the moment where all those hidden upgrades start becoming visible to players. But here is where my speculation starts getting interesting. I don't think road trip will stop at just adding cars. I think this could open the door for completely new gameplay systems. Imagine proper tourism gameplay. Roadside attractions, camping systems, SUV convoys, scenic driving routes, national parks, off-road trails, dynamic rest stops. Even multiplayer would completely change overnight. Right now, multiplayer is mostly trucking, but imagine hundreds of players organizing road cruises through mountain roads, off-road communities, street vehicle meetups, long-distance road trip events. The possibilities become huge very quickly, and honestly, I think SCS knows this. That is why they are taking their time with it, because this project has the potential to attract completely new players into ETS2 and ATS. So, again, maybe we should remind ourselves why we are even going into this direction or this crazy type of content and projects. Now we are building the sandbox, the huge world for American Truck Simulator through the years, and people in the player base have kind of pushed us into adding natural parks and tourist destinations where a truck isn't even expected. We have built Sierra Nevada, the mountain passes, and all that, where trucks are kind of not so welcome. And we thought, okay, how do we justify building these? Also, we have heard from many players that they don't care that much about what they are driving. They love the exploration side of the game. So ultimately, we said, you know what, let's do this little experiment and build a car or two or five. And before we knew it, we got traction from manufacturers. We got fantastic references, and the team became excited about building these beautiful cars. At that point, there was no way back. The images we are showing reflect the excitement. It shows support from partners who want to build brand awareness while also attracting people who may not care about trucking but love driving culture. And once those players enter the game, many of them will eventually try trucking too. From a business perspective, Road Trip honestly makes perfect sense. Now let's talk about release timing. Personally, I think Road Trip is much closer than people expect. Not tomorrow, not next month, but closer. Because once developers start heavily polishing visuals, physics, and vehicle behavior, it usually means the foundation is already there. The recent updates no longer feel experimental, they feel like preparation. And honestly, I would not be surprised if SCS is already internally testing large portions of Road Trip right now. Maybe they are still optimizing systems, maybe they are still refining vehicle handling, maybe they are still preparing licensing agreements for more brands, but the technology itself already looks active inside the game engine. That is the important part. Personally, my prediction right now is late this year. That's where I stand. Maybe SCS reveals more officially during the next big event season. Maybe they surprise everyone earlier than expected. But one thing feels clear to me now. Road Trip is no longer just an idea, it feels real. And honestly, it might become one of the biggest turning points in the history of ETS2 and ATS. But now I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think Road Trip is still far away? Or do you also think SCS is much closer?